Good evening. My name is Sandra Craig, and I represent the Etiquette Foundation of Illinois. You are watching a live interactive call in television program brought to you on CAN TV 21. Let's talk etiquette. During the next 25 minutes, my very special co host will be none other than Mr. Nathan Wright. Welcome, Mr. Wright.
Why, thank you. It's a pleasure again to be with you. As we move along, we just are having such a great time. And I look forward to this from the end of the show to the following Friday where we are here again. And I thank you for inviting me.
Me likewise.
Yes.
To our viewers and callers, we'd like you to call in to our show at area code 312-738-1060. 312-738-1060. I ask today, callers, that you would call and respond to the topic that we are discussing. And the topic we're discussing today is extended school day for kindergartners. Now is the time to add etiquette training to the curriculum. Please, Mr. Mayor, teach our kindergartners manners and morals. If you agree, we want to hear your comments, your concerns, and your questions. Chicago Public Schools are offering full-day kindergarten. CPS is planning to increase funding for kindergarten by $15 million next year by cutting costs in central office, reducing overtime for engineers, and renegotiating heat and electric contracts. Next year, the total spent on kindergarten will be a total of $140 million. I would like to quote Samuel J. Meisels, president of Erickson Institute, a graduate school focused on child development. He states a full day of kindergarten creates a structure for kids to succeed. But what happens inside that structure still needs a lot of attention. With that said, Mr. Wright, what is your opinion on full day kindergarten?
Well, I think it's a good idea. And I say that because this will allow for CPS to add manners and morals to the curriculum. And so this has been an issue that you and I are very, very familiar with and very aware of because you do teach kindergartners.
Yes.
And in fact, you just recently completed a kindergarten class at Wadsworth on the south side.
Yes, I did.
And so it was a big debate about how much time they were going to give you to do your kindergarten etiquette class.
Yes.
And so you were fortunate. You were able to get an hour, I believe.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
And in many cases, they only want to give you 40 minutes.
I fought.
You fought to get that hour. So now that we have a full day, this is a great opportunity because keep in mind, a child's social development is the most important education that child can get. It sets the foundation for the kind of human being this person will become.
Yes.
And it should not just be taught in kindergarten, it should be taught continually throughout that child's public education because this is how you instill values, important values to that child's social and cultural and actually intellectual development. So I do agree that it should start in kindergarten, but it should also go through the other grades because I think at Wadsworth you did kindergarten and first grade.
Yes, I did. I
Yes.
did both. I did both. And it was a wonderful experience. It was a great class. Both of the classes, I loved them. The teachers were very supportive. It went really well. I was only sad the last day when class ended, like I usually am.
And the children were sad.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they were very disappointed knowing that you would not be back. And your program and your teaching methodology is so good. In fact, you had visitors, people who was excited about your class that came and sat in on your class.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I had people come in and they wanted to observe the class and see how I was teaching and how the children were responding to the information I covered. And to their surprise,
Right.
they didn't think little kindergartners could do that, but
Right.
they did. And
Yes.
what amazed me was they could tell me from one day to the next what I talked about a couple of days prior. So
Yes.
they were really tuned in.
Yes, They want this knowledge. They are thirsty for this knowledge, and they just love it.
I want to tell you, they would thank me. Thank you, Miss Craig, for
Yes.
teaching me etiquette.
These are 5-year-olds.
Yes, and so they knew the importance of it, and they
Yes.
would thank me at the end of class, and
Yes.
we had a great time. I miss it. I'm hoping to be able to get back.
Yes.
I do believe we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Good evening.
Good
You
evening.
may have some schools where that may work. It'd be interesting if you talk to some preschool teachers out there when they got children that have behavioral problems. How can you teach in some classrooms? You may have a teacher maybe dealing with a boy. I'm trying to be delicate as possible. What were you gonna do if you have a boy in the classroom? You got one masturbating. You got another girl. You have a girl that have a hygiene problem. Then you got another student that got attention deficit. You know, he's running around and just can't stay still. You got some schools where they have a whole bunch of different types of social problems. How can you deal with that?
Thank you for
Thanks,
your
Joe.
call.
Thanks.
And you know what? The reason I say that it's the children need it and they want it is because of situations like that. See, if they were taught etiquette and proper social behavior, they would know that that type of behavior was unacceptable, Joe.
Absolutely.
So thank you for your call.
Absolutely, and I agree. You may have that on some occasions, but it's not the norm.
No, it's not. No, it's
even
not.
In schools that you would think would be impossible to teach in those classrooms, you do not have that, especially among 5-year-olds. Some of the things Jill said, I just find it hard to believe that would happen. A child is not even old enough to understand those kinds of things. And, so,
And when things happen in public or in a social setting such as school, that's why social skills are so important, because sometimes our children do not know and they have not been taught. They have not been exposed to proper etiquette. So that's why etiquette is so important. And believe me, there's always a way to teach everyone. You just must find out how that person learns, how that person receives information. So it is possible to teach everyone. You just have to learn the method in which they learn.
Absolutely. And you do go out your way to interact with those children that
Yes.
you see may have some kind of behavioral problem.
And I have
coming out of the home.
experienced children that have had behavior problems. And you know what I find is those are the ones I really go after to try to help, because I know they're crying out for
Yes.
some help.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm there to do
Yes.
that, to help.
And you're good at it.
And I'm grateful to God for the gift that He's given me.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Wright, if the kindergarten children are going to be in school for 7 hours, what kind of subjects would be best covered for that time limit?
Timeline.
Because they're 5 years old and they're a little antsy.
Sure.
What do you think for 7 hours that could hold their attention?
Well, ideally, now of course this probably would never happen, but ideally, you would start the day off teaching them about etiquette, about good manners, about politeness, about consideration, about respect. So if you did that for an hour, then you move your curriculum to do maybe how to add 1 + 1 = 2, do mathematics. Then go back to etiquette for another hour and teach some of the other social skills. Then maybe go to reading, your ABCs and those kinds of things for an hour. So mix the day up, but have at least 4 or 5 classes in that 7 hours that covers their social behavior. That would be ideal, but we know we won't see that kind of structure to the curriculum. But if we can get an hour,
Right.
1 hour, we have seen amazing things happen just with that 1 hour. So,
1 hour.
What do you think?
I think 1 hour of etiquette with kindergartners early in the morning to start their day would be ideal, would be perfect. Because what would happen is when you set the tone for their behavior and how they're going to interact with the teacher, how they're going to interact with each other, how they should behave, it should be a pretty good day. And you should also be able to teach. Because remember now, it's impossible to teach if the children are acting up and they're all over the place.
Yes.
That's why social instruction is very important.
Absolutely.
Very important.
And you've gotten good positive responses from the teachers who have said the class is out of control. I can't control the children. And you've come in there and made a world of a difference.
Right. I'm thinking of Wadsworth in particular. There was one of the kindergarten teachers. Remember, I told
Right.
you
Yes.
she was so excited about me coming, and when I told her the classes were about to end, she said, "Oh, I think you're misinformed." She said, "I was told you had at least another 3 weeks."
Right.
I said, "No, I do not have another 3 weeks. This is the end of my time with your students."
Right.
And she said, "Well, I'm going to check with somebody because I think I'm pretty sure I heard 3
Right.
weeks."
Right.
So what happened? She actually did. She checked with the principal, and then when I came back the next day, she said, "Well, I'm just going to be I'm so sad. The kids are sad that you're leaving." And I said, "Well, I understand that, but hopefully I'll be able to come back."
Yes.
But yeah, she didn't want me to go.
Of course, and this is common. I've heard this many times from your teachers, that they are so appreciative because now they can teach. They
Yes.
can enjoy teaching and not dealing with behavioral problems that they have to deal with every 5 minutes in the classroom. And so I don't understand why CPS don't see the value of this and understand this is critical to our children's social development. And so with this kind of education, you won't have the kind of violence, you won't have the kind of crime, you won't have the type of degeneracy that we are experiencing every day in this society. And manners and morals are the key to creating a great civilization. And that's what we need to get back to.
Right. And I think it's an excellent opportunity to do so now, since we're going to have 7 hours of school for kindergartners.
Yes.
I mean, what a difference could be made in their lives and in their education if they were to get the social skills this early on, kindergarten, and
Yes.
continue, and we could track them. There would be a big difference, a big difference.
Yes, yes.
Let's just hope that somebody in CPS is watching
Yes.
and thinking, saying, well, maybe that's not a bad idea. Maybe
Yes,
we should give it
do
a
that.
try.
Well, I sent a letter to the mayor. I emailed
Oh, you
him
did?
today. And I emailed a letter to Miss Barbara Bennett, asking her to please consider this. Now, whether the letter ever get to them, the email ever gets to them is another question. But I'm going to be persistent with this because I think it's important, and I'm going to reach out to some of our local aldermen.
Okay.
Maybe they need to take this up with the mayor, and hopefully he'll be willing to listen. This is really critical to where we're going as a society. And here in Illinois, I mean, we are dependent on, jobs in the service sector. And children and adults with good behavior, good manners, would be ideal for the service sector industry. Because when we come in the city, it's cars all the way out to 63rd Street on the Dan Ryan. People coming into Chicago for the entertainment and
Yes,
the culture.
yes, yes.
And we need to have a high quality service sector, well trained workforce to be able to continue to grow this important sector of our economy. And hopefully we can get that message to the mayor.
I hope so too.
Yes, yes.
I believe we have a caller. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
This is an excellent suggestion. It's a great topic. And, the curriculum, the educational curriculum should be dynamic, and it should address the students or the pupils that are matriculating through the curriculum. So by introducing this etiquette for manners and morals at the kindergarten age level, then we will be able to change the rates of incarceration that's determined by the
Yes.
time the children are in third grade.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Right.
Somebody
Okay.
gets it.
Okay, I got more. All right. So by being able to implement this, and not just implementing it at the kindergarten level, but having it be a core, a staple to the curriculum throughout their entire public education,
Oh, wow.
we can then re-socialize the populace.
Yes.
And my final point, the first caller, his name is Joe. I'm going to nickname him, he's earned it, Slow. And I'd like to personally sponsor Slow for a seat at the morals part of the kindergarten training because he needs it, and he probably will need potty training as well. And I just want to sponsor him throughout the entire course. But good job, and thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you for your
thank
call.
you very well. And the caller is right on the money, right on the money. Because as you know, last week we talked about public school students being 99%
Yes.
of those who are committing crime. I'm talking not white collar crime. I'm talking about violent, non-violent drug selling. Those crimes are being committed 99% by Chicago public school present and past students. If you go down to Stateville, you go to Pontiac, you go to all the prisons, all of the prisons are full of ex Chicago public school students. And
Mm.
why is that? If they spent 10, 12 years in school and the only thing they learn is how to go out and be violent and commit crimes, then what is this about us as a society? Where is, civility? Where is our civilized, behavior? Why aren't we learning this? So we don't have to fill up the prisons and cost us millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, in taxpayer money. You paying a fortune for, this to happen, and we could do something much different about that.
And I think we should.
Absolutely. So
Now,
you can
my
call it.
question is everybody on board for that? Does everybody want us to train these kids so they don't wind up in prison? That's my question.
Only thing I can do, you have a great question there, and I personally, from as long as we have been trying to get that message over, and going back to Vallis, going back to Duncan, going back to Huberman, and now Miss Bird, going back to Daley, and so we have sent hundreds of letters to our aldermen, to our the mayor of this city, to the governor, and it all has fell on deaf ears. That's
Again, I say, I wonder, does everybody want our children to be trained in social skills? Because you have to think about it. Unfortunately, many people are employed at the prisons. Many people make their living working in the prisons. Many people make their living in the court system, the judicial system. So I just asked that question and I'll leave it there.
yes.
Caller, you on the air?
Yeah, how you guys doing? I wonder, what did you think about Ursula's late ex-wife having custody about this son? What do you think about that? Y'all doing a good job.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
didn't quite
I'm
hear
sorry,
the
I
que-
didn't hear the
I didn't quite.
I didn't
hear
hear the
Didn't
question.
understand. Sorry, caller. We didn't clearly understand that question.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't. Mr. Wright, Chicago public schools at present do not charge for kindergarten, but there are a number of communities that do charge for kindergarten. Wheaton and Warrenville School District 200 charge $4,000 a year per child. Those who qualify for a free or reduced lunch pay $200 a year. Have you ever heard of paying for a kindergarten class in a public school? Is there a chance that CPS could charge for kindergarten?
It could very well happen because, as you well know, they have all kinds of fees that they have attached on to a child's enrollment in a public schools. Fees for this, fees for that, and these fees are over $100 in many cases, and it continues to increase. So you say it's a public free education, but if you don't pay those fees, you can't attend school. And at the end of the school, if you haven't paid those fees, especially if you're graduating, they will not give you your diploma. And that has happened to a number of Chicago public school high school students who did not have their fees all paid up, and these fees pile up, and they can't get their diploma because they owe for these fees. So they're actually paying a small tuition. This is how I'm translating it. They're now charging you a small tuition, and that tuition will continue to grow over the next several years, and I'm pretty certain of that.
I agree. Now, my concern was if they're putting $140 million in, I just got to wonder if they're planning on getting something back. So, and when I saw that Warrenville and Wheaton school districts charge $4,000 per child per year, that's a lot of money for kindergarten.
Absolutely.
I would like to know
those
what
communities may be able to afford it. I'm sure they
But just
parents
like
can.
every city, there are probably some that could afford it, and there are probably some that cannot.
Yes.
You know.
Well, it goes back to the tax base, and property taxes primarily pay for the schools in those communities. And because the tax base has been eroded, because people aren't working, they don't have jobs, and they're losing their homes, and so they can't afford to pay through the taxes. They can't afford to pay for free education. Now they're charging those parents who can't afford it this particular fee. And that's what's going on around the country.
I know. I'm well aware of that. Now, Mr. Wright, are there any plans to add civility training to the new curriculum for the full day kindergarten?
I haven't heard not one. I haven't heard the word etiquette coming out of Miss Bennett's mouth or the mayor. I haven't heard the word etiquette. I don't even think they know that word. You think that's in their vocabulary?
I'm sure it is.
Well, they say it quietly, like, you know.
I was just wondering, had anybody contacted you or you heard of any
I
other
haven't seen it-
organization?
I haven't seen it in writing. Let's challenge the media who covers the mayor. Please, Mr., Mrs., Miss Media, please ask the mayor to add etiquette to his vocabulary, and in particular to the public schools for which he's the mayor of. That would be great if they would ask them about that. You think they would do that?
We'll see. Time will tell.
Right.
Mr. Wright, what would be some of the benefits if they did add civility training to this full day of
Huge.
kindergarten?
Huge. But it's just not in kindergarten. Keep in mind, our children are exposed to the worst of worst when it comes down to social degeneracy. We're at the worst time in all of human history when it comes down to our children being exposed, to all kinds of inappropriate kinds of things that they are seeing on the television.
Yes.
People are lying, people being deceptive, people just not having any kind of character, ethical behavior. And the children are being exposed to this every day. And the violence in the movies. You go to the movies on the weekend, they're packing in there to see violence. And then pornography. The children now are being exposed to that at an ever earlier age. And so this degeneracy is at its worst. And I can't think of any other time in my lifetime that I have seen, and I'm including desegregation, into that. I mean, and Jim Crowism. This is worse than that because our children are being exposed to it. This need to be taught for the entire 12 years of a child's public education, without a doubt.
I believe one of our callers said that, didn't he?
He did, and I thank him for saying, just to counter, to give your child a chance to assess what they are hearing. Is that, see, if you lie, you'll cheat. If you cheat, you'll lie. The children need to have some way of countering that kind of behavior that they're exposed to on the television, in the media. And they can't do it if they don't have a way of at least judging for themselves, assessing for themselves. Is this honorable? Is this right? Is this something I should adopt? They don't have that opportunity. This is why they need to be reminded every day of their school life.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
I agree. I would love to see them added to the curriculum. And as you said, not just for the kindergartners, but I would be grateful if it was just a start. Just a start. If they start with the kindergartners, that would give us hope.
Absolutely.
And that would give
Absolutely.
our children an opportunity and a chance.
Yes.
Well, I want to say again, Mr. Wright, I thank you for being my co-host. Unfortunately, we are out of time again, but it was a pleasure being here with you today.
It certainly was on my part, and I thank you for inviting me to be on your show. And I'm looking forward to being on your show next week.
Me too. To our callers and our viewers, I thank you for calling and tuning in to Let's Talk Etiquette. I thank you for being here today. Without you, there would be no show. So please tune in next week. Have a great weekend. Be safe. And remember, practice civility. Pass it on. This city, this community, this world needs it. Good night.
Good night.